Hi, welcome to Dwayne's Guitar Lessons. I'm instructor Dwayne Jenkins. Thank you so much for being here today. Here at Dwayne's Guitar Lessons, I answer questions for the students who are out there looking to learn how to play guitar and trying to find some solutions to the confusion and stuff that's in the music. So if you have questions, you're learning something, not too sure where to go, let me know. I'll be happy to help you out. Now my latest question is about how do you play solos all over the fretboard and be able to play all over the fretboard and guitar solo and still sound good. Okay, so that's what today's lesson is going to be about. If you're playing some guitar solos, if you're doing something like that, you know, you're trying to figure out where to play, how to stay in key, how to sound good everywhere you play on the fretboard. You see those guys doing that? But there's a secret to it, and I'll show you in just a few.
Audio Jungle.
Now the first tip about playing guitar solos all over the fretboard is scales, okay? You want to learn scales because what they do is they create a road map along the fretboard. We'll call it a fretboard road map. And they help you out with where to play, put your hands and where the notes are, okay? The note intervals, all right? The note interval is the distance between two notes. So if you master the scales, and in guitar, they're considered patterns, scale patterns. I've said this many, many times in all my lessons, and I would recommend you thinking like this. Even chords are patterns. A lot of chords have similar shapes to them, so that helps you to go from one pattern to the next. Scale patterns, you want to learn your scales, okay? If you learn your scales, that's going to give you that road map that you need in order to be able to play all over the fretboard. Now the easiest scales to start out with are your pentatonic scales. You have 5 pentatonic scales that can be used in both major and minor. That's what's great about them. You can play them over major progressions or use them over minor progressions. The most common one that everybody gets to know right off the bat is your very first minor pentatonic scale. That's right here in A minor. Now the thing about these patterns is if you study the 5, there's just 5 of them is all you have to study, okay? It's not like 20 or 30, just 5. Okay, now if you study them and you master where they're located, okay, study these patterns, these box patterns. It's number 1. Number 2 is going to start where number 1 ends, so number 1 in A ended at the 8th fret. So the second one's going to be right here, 8, 10, 7, 10, 7, 10, 7, 9, 8, 10, 8, 10. 10, 8, 10, 8, 9, 7, 10, 7, 10, 7, 10, 8. Then you can reside back on 5 again, okay? So that's your second pattern. That's your major pentatonic. Okay, then you got your third, which is going to end where the second one is. So the second one started at 8. In the key of A, no, you know, once you go into a different key, they change their positioning, but they stay the same as far as pattern goes. So the third one is going to start at 8. I'm sorry, no, the third one's going to start at 10. Second one was from 8 to 10. Third one's going to be 10, 12, 10, 12, 10, 12, 9, 12, 11, 13, 10, 12. And even though we're starting here on 10, 12, you can tell we're still in the key of A. A minor, actually. Okay, pattern 4 is going to start where this pattern ends. This pattern ends on 12. We're going to start on 12. 12, 15, 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14, 13, 15, 12, 15. And once again, you can hear how it resides on A. And if we stick to these intervals, okay, once again, the interval, what is an interval? An interval is a distance between two notes. So that was pattern number 4, and then pattern number 5 is going to start where pattern number 4 ended. So pattern 4 was from 12 to 15. Pattern 5 is going to be 15 to 17, back to the A in the second octave. So now we got 15, 17, 15, 17, 14, 17, 14, 17, 15, 17, 15, 17. Right there. There's your A, there's your A. So now we spanned the whole fretboard from this octave to here. And if you stick within those patterns, those intervals, and you master them on each string, you can play all over the fretboard and stay in key. Okay, and tip number 2 is you want to be able to visualize these patterns, okay? Because each one of them is a little bit different. They have a box pattern to them, and you want to visualize what they look like across the fretboard, okay? That's very, very important. This is why reading diagrams is a really, really good skill to learn, because it shows you these box patterns, okay? It shows you the shape of them. And they connect together like puzzle pieces, okay? And then if you say, well, what about past that? Well, it just repeats itself. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then it starts all over again. 1, 2, and then it would go indefinitely, but we run out of fretboard. Same thing down here. If we're at number 1 here, then 5 is going to be right behind it. And then 4 would be right behind that, and 3 and 2 and 1 and so forth and so forth. But once again, run out of fretboard, so we can only go so far. But that's a good way of mastering your fretboard, going and being able to visualize these patterns. Alright, so number 3 is to know exactly where they're located within each key. Like for instance, I was showing you that if we were playing in A, it would be 5, 8, 8, 10, 10, 12, 12, 15, 15, 17. If we were playing, say, in the key of G, that would change. It would be 3, 6, 6, 8, 8, 10, 10, 13, 13, 15. From this G to this one. And that's what makes them great, is they span the whole fretboard like that. And once you learn them, and you can, change them to different keys, then you can play anywhere. And any key, doesn't matter if it's major, minor, doesn't matter. You can play everywhere and sound great every single time. Now, number 4, what you want to do is, once you learn the scale patterns, the patterns of them, or let's say you're playing pattern 3 in the key of A. Then what you want to learn is your personality traits, your hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, bends, trills, vibrato. All those personality, I call them personality traits because it's what brings the scale to life. And of course, number 5, what you got to do is you got to practice every day. Practice, 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 practice. Okay? I can't express that enough. If you follow these 5 tips, and just practice. Start with one pattern. Practice your personality traits, because those personality traits are what bring it to life. You got to get to know the pattern very well. Get it to be up and down, up and down. Like a staircase. I kind of look at it like a staircase. Like if you're going up and down, up and down, up and down a staircase. Up and down, up and down. You're going down, up and down. You have to know those patterns like the back of your hand, Doesn't matter if pattern 2, pattern 3, pattern 4. Those intervals. If you're in pattern 4 and you want to go back to the root here in A, you got to know those intervals, because if you don't know the intervals, you can start hitting bad notes that don't sound good. You got to master those intervals, and the only way you're going to do that is to by visualize, okay? Visualize the patterns. I recommend taking the patterns, printing them out on a piece of paper, and study them. That's what I did. Just study those patterns. Just take it one pattern at a time. You did it one per day, 5 days. You'd have all 5 of them. Alright, so then we've learned 5 tips to really help you out with your guitar playing, playing guitar solos, playing all over the fretboard. It's really not that difficult. You just follow these 5 steps. Number 1, learn your scales, which is the roadmap, fretboard roadmap. Number 2, be able to visualize the shape, the patterns, the box patterns. That's why they call them that, because that's what they are. You got to visualize them in your mind. Visualize where they are on the fretboard. You got to be able to see them. It's very, very important. Number 3, you want to know exactly where they're located in every key. And the thing that's great about these patterns is they're always in the same order. They don't change order. So once you learn them in one key, you can transpose into another key pretty easy. You just got to move up and down the fretboard with them. But you got to know those patterns. You got to be able to see them in your mind's eye. It's very, very important. Number 4, learn your personality traits, your hammer-ons, your pull-offs, your slides, your bends, trills, vibrato. You know, that's what makes them sound like music. Okay, so learn that kind of stuff. You know, your double stops, your triplets, things like that. And all that stuff is going to, that's why I call it personality, because it brings out your personality. And everybody's a little different. And if you work at it enough, you're going to bring out your style. You're going to develop your style of how you play. And that's what's great about playing music, is you get to bring out your own original thing about it. It's, you know, guitar is, I've said this many times before, it's a journey of self-discovery. You know, you've got to make a connection with the instrument in order for you to bring out your personality in with it. And this is a great way of doing that. But it does take some time, which leads us to number 5, which is practice, 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 practice. You've got to practice every day, a little bit here, a little bit there. You've just got to do it. You know, the more that you practice, you know, and this has a guitar in your hand, you know, you got to develop your picking hand as well. That's very important too. You know, you got to be able to pick your string, you know, the proper strings. Work with down picking, work with alternate picking, because it's really a combination of both hands. So doing different things, you know, you're like finger tapping or something. Using the whammy bar, harmonics, you know, it's endless what you can do really. But you got to practice, and the more you practice, the more you discover some of these things. You know what I mean? You start to discover what works for you. You start to discover guitar licks, little phrases of music that sound good, and when you do, repeat them and start to really understand that stuff and get it down, and then work with, like, you know, some kind of backing track so you can play over it. You know. You don't have to play fast or anything, just, you know. See what I'm saying? You do that all day long. You work on that, I guarantee you can be able to play all over the fretboard. But you got to master those techniques. Got to master those patterns, know where they're at, and work on that every day. So if you need some help, let me know. If you have any questions, leave me in the comments below. Be sure to check out some other videos that I've done. I'll leave you some links down in the description below so you can check those out. They'll be in the end screen, stuff like that. I've got videos on all kinds of different things guitar related. I'll be making even more in the future. So if you're working on rhythm, I've got some videos for that. If you're working on lead, I've got some videos for that. If you're working on theory, I've got some videos for that. If you like to build guitars, I've got some videos on that as well. Be sure to check that out. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for my subscribers. And you guys for making this possible on YouTube. I really appreciate your support in my channel. Keep practicing. If you have any questions, let me know. And I will see you at our next lesson.